He cared passionately about Fairfax County, all of Northern Virginia. He brought humor, but he also brought a pugnaciousness to him. I mean, he was the kind of guy, when you got into a fight, you want him in the foxhole with him. And I've been through so many stories come to mind. We've campaigned across Northern Virginia many times. When he first got involved in Fairfax County politics, Fairfax was a pretty Republican county. Now it is obviously the opposite. That was a lot due to Gerry Connolly. I remember more recently the fight over the headquarters of where the FBI is going to be. Of course, that whole fight's been blown up a little bit now by the new administration, but Gerry was, pitching in for Virginia all the time. And let's face it, the Maryland House delegation is really strong as well. And then you've got the question of federal workers. There was nobody that cared more about federal workers. All the rest of the delegation in Maryland and Virginia, we fight hard for our federal workers, but Gerry went the extra mile year in and year out, not just more recently with the challenges by the new administration.
Now, over the years, you and Congressman Connolly worked together on some big issues for Virginia, some of which you've touched on: federal worker protection, infrastructure. But what was it like teaming up with him on some of those efforts, and what made him so effective at getting things done?
Well, he was fun. He always brought a sense of humor. He was whip smart. He would, take it to somebody else. I mean, he disagreed. He didn't mind telling you. He got past kind of political politeness for the sake of politeness sometimes. You knew where he stood on every issue, but he did it in a way that wasn't ever mean. So, there were times, I still remember when I was governor and I was saying, we got to fix our state's finances and we had to change our taxes a bit. And Gerry goes, "Well, Mark, you just remember, Northern Virginia already pays more than its fair share, so you make sure it's fair." So we were friends, but he was always willing to get in your face if he thought he was right.
Always fighting for voters is what I'm hearing you say. As we begin to wrap up our interview, obviously, you worked closely alongside him, but what do you think he'd say was his proudest moment, or what he would hope people would remember him for?
I think one of the things he'd claim would be, getting rail to Dulles. Boy, oh boy, that was a multi-decade fight. I think there's not probably a single trail, park, road in Fairfax that he didn't touch. But at the end of the day, he was about making sure everybody in this country got a fair shot. And he believed strongly in America and our values. And boy, oh boy, he will be missed.
Senator Mark Warner, look, thank you for just sharing some insight as to who the congressman was on a personal level. We know him as the politician, but you giving us some more insight on that level is tremendously helpful for us. So we appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We are also hearing from Virginia Senator Tim Kaine tonight. He said in part, quote, "My friend Gerry Connolly was a one-of-a-kind public servant who never shied away from fighting for Northern Virginia and our country. His legacy will live on through all that he accomplished throughout his decades of public service and the countless people he inspired along the way." Now, Connolly also made an impact on the next generation of leaders, serving as a mentor to younger lawmakers. We spoke with freshman member of Congress Eugene Vindman about his time working with Connolly.
Congressman Vindman, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we've heard other lawmakers describe Congressman Connolly as a mentor, as a friend. I'm curious, what did his support mean to you personally, especially as you transitioned into Congress?
Yeah. Well, first, Cindy and I, my wife, are deeply saddened by the passing of Gerry, and our condolences go out to him, his family, and his staff. Gerry was a gem of a guy. He was just so kind, so generous with his time. He was a great mentor. And he and I actually got to know each other before I even considered running for office, when I was still an active duty soldier. In the wake of the first impeachment, Gerry was a steadfast supporter of mine, and we got to know each other. He came to my promotion to colonel on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial.
I'm curious, when you think of Gerry Connolly, not just the congressman, but the person, you kind of touched on this, but what else comes to mind? How would you describe him just on a personal level?
Just friendly, jovial, generous. That was the side that I saw of him. Others saw him as a fighter, a steadfast defender of the values of his district and the Commonwealth. And that was absolutely there. That's obviously what people will remember. But I remember Gerry as a man who was very kind and generous and is a great mentor and friend.
When you think about the congressman's legacy, you know, it was long. He served for many decades, both at the local level, of course, and a national one. What stands out to you most?
I think the dedication to his community and to what he thought was right. One of the activities that he's known for is his St. Patrick's Day event. And I mean, the last one was just a few months ago, and I was out there, and the hall was packed with supporters and friends. And once Gerry won you over, you were locked in for life. I think there are people that have been going for decades to his event, and he was a gem, like I said.
I will say you are the third person I've talked to today who mentioned his infamous St. Patty's Day celebration. So, clearly just a way of him being able to bring people together. But in terms of his lasting impact on Northern Virginia specifically, anything that you would add or anything that you would share with us today?
So, his district had changed over the years. I live in Prince William County. He was my representative up until redistricting. And so even down there, people still remember Gerry as a tremendous advocate and representative. And his latest position, he was the ranking member and oversight, and he took those responsibilities seriously, holding power to account, holding the administration to account, defending the constituents in this district, whether you're a federal employee, and we have tons of those across the region, 55,000 in my district, or just holding folks to account that, nobody is above the law. Gerry was the fighter, that he was the one that you wanted in your corner and going to bat for you.
Well, to build off of that, you were recently elected to Congress. I'm curious how his example has kind of shaped your own vision for your service in Virginia.
Absolutely. I mean, again, I think the fact that he was able to bring so many people together at his St. Patrick's Day event as a way to bring the community together, I think is a great example. The fact that his constituent services, people still remember how good a job he did in Prince William County and in the old parts of his district. The fact that he was a fighter, that he was, approachable, all of these things for a freshman member of Congress, somebody especially like me that had never been in politics before. I mean, I've been a politician now formally for all of 5 months, so I've got a lot to learn. And Gerry was a great mentor of what somebody that really cares about the community is like.
As we begin to wrap up our conversation here, if you could sum up Congressman Connolly's legacy in one sentence, what would you share with our viewers today?
Steadfast fighter and warrior and values-driven advocate for Virginia and his constituents.
Congressman Eugene Vindman, we certainly appreciate you taking the time to talk with us about Congressman Connolly and his legacy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, we are also hearing from Democrat Abigail Spanberger, the former Congress member now running for governor of Virginia. Speaking about Gerry Connolly, she said, quote, "He was ferocious in his devotion to his principles, the people he loved and served, and the ideals that drove his public service. Gerry's passing leaves a deep hole in the hearts of so many Virginians, including myself, and a deep void on Capitol Hill." Now, as we mentioned before Connolly's time in Congress, he served as chairman of the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors. This afternoon, we spoke with current chairman Jeff McKay about Connolly's impact on the county.
Chairman McKay, thank you so much for being with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Now, I understand that you knew Congressman Connolly quite well. In fact, you're serving in the position that he once held himself. And I'm curious, when you think of Gerry Connolly, not just the congressman, but the person, what comes to mind? How would you describe the energy he brought to public service?
Well, he was remarkable. I love Gerry. He was a 30-plus year friend of mine, mentor of mine. He was somebody that, led with his heart. I mean, he really cared about people. And so many times in our politics that gets lost. It was never lost on Gerry. And, he also approached everything that he did with a sense of humor. And I think that's something we can all learn from. We're all involved in important, tough things, and the policy fights are tough. But inject some humor and always keep in mind that, all the things that we do, we're doing it to improve people's lives. And Gerry never lost sight of that.
Well, speaking of that, I thought that was really well said, by the way. But we know during his time on the Board of Supervisors, during his time in office as well, he had a huge part in the development of Tyson's Corner, the expansion of the Metro Silver Line. I could go on and on and on. But when you think about his impact specifically on Northern Virginia, anything you would share about his legacy?
Well, it's gigantic. I mean, honestly, there's nowhere I go in the county where I don't see physically something that Gerry played a role in making sure happened. Even just simple things like protecting our tree canopy and putting in a countywide trail system that's used by thousands of people every day, and seeing all the signs that indicate this is the Gerry Connolly Trail is a reminder of so many things in our community that Gerry has played a big role in. But what's more powerful to me are the people who have come up to me, and already even today, everywhere I go, people expressing, their sadness for this loss and telling a story about something Gerry did to help them. And the humanitarian side of Gerry is the thing that, is the biggest takeaway for me, because we can notch a lot of accomplishments and policy end of things. And that's certainly what our elected officials do and what our constituents expect us to do. But if you don't have the humanity piece that drives you every day to accomplish those things and remember the people you serve, why do we do this? And that's something that is powerful. And the throngs of people who have been affected by the loss of Gerry, reflecting back on something he did to help them, even the simplest little of things that he did to help them, I think is a really powerful part of his legacy.
Is there something that you would share, with our viewers who are watching this? I think you've done such a good job, bringing Gerry's spirit into this conversation, but anything else that you want them to know, or maybe something that wasn't commonly known about him that you would share with us today?
Well, Gerry and I had an Irish bond, and so we always celebrated our Irish heritage, and so we would always have some good laughs about that. I think the thing I would share most about Gerry is wherever I was with him, whether it was out at a park facility or at an HOA meeting, people knew when Gerry walked in the room. And they knew because of the electricity that he brought. I used to always kid him because he's quite a bit shorter than I am. And I used to always say to him, I don't know how a leprechaun like Gerry can walk in the room and garner all the attention, suck it right out of the room. But that was just the spirit that he had, that he brought to places. I mean, you knew when Gerry was there. And the reason why I say this is because a legacy of Gerry's is always showing up. He was Providence District Supervisor, chairman of the board, and went to Congress. And when most people go to Congress, they kind of go over to Washington, D.C., and they're forgotten about. Gerry spent almost all of his time in Fairfax County, where people knew him, where he wanted to see people. He never forgot his roots, and he never forgot the people that he served. And so he was a constant fixture in Fairfax County. And when he walked into a room or walked into an event, people knew that Gerry was there, and they expected him to be there. And so I think that's a passion for public service that is rare, but it's certainly something that I appreciate, and I know all the residents of Fairfax County have benefited from.
As we begin to close out our interview, I'm curious if you could sum up Congressman Connolly's legacy in a sentence. What would you say? What would you leave us with?
He was a masterful strategist and a humanitarian in one package, which you don't often see. He cared so much about people, but he also was a passionate pursuer of the right policy. And it's one thing to give a good, passionate speech as an elected official, but what Gerry did is he always had a strategy to accomplish what he was trying to do. So a masterful strategist, humanitarian, all around great 30+ year close friend of mine, and mentor to so many people in Fairfax County and in this region.
Well, look, I can't thank you enough for your time today. And again, thank you so much for joining us. Current Fairfax County Board of Supervisor Chairman Jeff McKay, I'm sorry for your loss. I know you all are grieving as well, but thank you for taking the time to share with us what the Congressman meant to you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Now, another member of the Board of Supervisors also worked closely with Connolly. James Walkinshaw served as his chief of staff for more than a decade and recently got Connolly's endorsement to fill his seat.
Joining us this morning is James Walkinshaw, member of the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors. representing the Braddock District. He worked alongside Connolly for more than a decade as his chief of staff and recently announced that he has a campaign to fill Connolly's seat. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you for making time with us, especially when you consider what we're going through here. I know he was a close friend of yours. You worked with him for a long period of time. When did you find out that this has happened? And obviously, we want to know what your reaction is to this.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I want to start just by saying to the entire WUSA 9 team that Congressman Connolly really loved you all the reporters and the staff there. He had so much respect for the work that you do. I learned early this morning that he passed away late last night. It was devastating news, obviously. He and I personally were very close. But there are thousands of people across Northern Virginia who are mourning today, who loved him and deeply respected his commitment to our community. So it's a very difficult day for us here in Northern Virginia.
Yes, a very, very difficult day. What was it like working beside the congressman for this long period of time? We know he was a fighter when it came to legislation and everything that he was doing. But what was it like personally to work with him and for him to be a mentor to you?
Well, he was somebody who gave every fiber of his being to public service. His heart, soul, and body went into serving this community each and every day. But one of the things that was so special about him is he made it a lot of fun. And even on the darkest, most difficult days, which you get a lot of those in government and politics, his wit and humor and ability to find the humanity in the work that we did made it a little bit easier. And that's something I will always treasure.
And you know, you talked about his legacy. So we know that he fought very hard for the federal workers in the midst of what's going on with the Trump administration. He also was very vocal about what went on, the insurrection on January 6th. One of his final pieces of legislation that he sponsored was the Esophageal Cancer Awareness Act. So he did a lot. So speak to us more about his legacy moving forward, what he leaves behind based on the work that he had done.
Well, here in Northern Virginia, the good news is his legacy is etched in every corner of our community. So many projects that he made happen, from the Mosaic District in Merrifield to the Silver Line Metro Extension to the Gerry Connolly Cross County Trail. He was somebody who felt like when you're in elected office, the purpose is to get things done for the people you represent. And certainly during the Trump administration, both of the Trump administrations, he was a valiant defender of our democracy, a valiant defender of the dedicated public servants who work in the federal government, 80,000 of whom live here in Fairfax County. And it's going to be incumbent on all of us to continue that work moving forward.
What do you think he'll be remembered most for, and his proudest accomplishment out of everything that he was able to do?
He was very proud, and rightfully so, of his service as a president of the NATO Parliamentary Assembly. You know, he's somebody who went from working locally in his neighborhood civic association to the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors to Congress, and then operating very effectively on the world stage at NATO, helping to repair and rebuild our transatlantic alliance in recent years. Incredibly proud of that. But I think what he should be most proud of, and I know is just the impact he had on so many individuals, from all of the staff members like myself who worked for him, whose lives were changed, to the thousands of people he met each and every year here in Northern Virginia and had a kind word for, or a joke for, or a favor he was able to do for them. He just made an impact on a lot of people's lives in small and big ways.
Yes, well, we appreciate you making time. And I know at the beginning of this, you talked about how he had much respect for everybody here at WUSA 9, and we had respect for him as well, because we talked to him on many occasions about many different things, and he was always polite and kind, and always had a smile on his face when he walked out. So we appreciate that and respected that as well. So thank you again for your time. Condolences on the loss of your friend, and condolences to his family as well. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Now, just a few hours ago, former President Joe Biden shared his thoughts on Connolly. Of course, we know the former president is going through his own cancer battle right now. So he said in part, quote, Gerry Connolly was a man of deep integrity, principle, and purpose. He was a dear friend, a fierce leader for working families, and someone I was proud to partner with throughout our careers. Now, we should point out one of Connolly's final acts as a member of Congress was introducing the Esophageal Cancer Awareness Act. Now, shortly after his death, the bill was renamed in his honor. It pushes for more research into gaps in cancer screening and prevention. Now, esophageal cancer can be caused by heavy smoking, excessive alcohol use, obesity, and long-term acid reflux. Early symptoms can be subtle. They include trouble swallowing, chest pain, or chronic heartburn. Unfortunately, many people don't notice until the cancer is advanced. So doctors stress early detection is key.